You made a little mistake, didn't you? You shouldn't have told me your little secret. I just went, what secret? What, you mean that I'm gay? That's not a secret, that's just the truth. Why, do you have a problem with that? And he went,
Oh no, actually I'm gay too.
Then he went on to tell me about all the gay clubs he'd visited in Brussels and how he thought all the people holding top jobs were either gay or at least bisexual. And we talked about how gay people often repress other gay people so as to hide their own sexuality. And he told me how once he worked as a driver for some rich Arab men who used to like having orgies in the same room. He was convinced they were actually interested in watching each other in action, and that the women were only an excuse to make this possible. In the meantime, I was quite tired, so I was lying down on my bench, as you can see. And while we were having our conversation, it was becoming increasingly clear to me he found me quite attractive, and that a fantasy about the two of us was starting to emerge in his head. However, it was clear to me too, he didn't really believe in this fantasy, and accepted it was more just like wishful thinking. Ever since we'd established that we were both gay, he had been kind of flirting with me, and making comments like,
You're so young and fit, and I'm so old and fat.
Of course, me being turned on by him was absolutely impossible to me too. Visually, he had just about everything that would turn me off. However, he didn't stink, and he appeared to be clean. If he just felt like seeing or feeling my body without penetrating it in any way, this was possible. I myself had been in love for many years, or just physically attracted to many of my best straight friends, and I had often wished that they could be a little bit more generous with their bodies. How could I deny someone else something that would have brought me so much joy and saved me so much frustration when it doesn't even hurt you? Quite the opposite. It's interesting and fun. So at one point, lying in a seductive position, I asked him, do you find me attractive?
Attractive? You are... There are no words. Could I just look at...
And I said, yes, and lifted up my t-shirt. And then, he looked at my tummy, as if he were looking at the eighth wonder of the world. His hand was trembling. He didn't dare touch it. I took it and put it down on my belly. And then the most amazing thing happened. A miracle that surprised both of us. It turned me on. I had a full-blown erection. I opened my trousers and moved his hand down into my underwear. I opened his trousers too. However, he turned out to be impotent. Yes, I know, for those of you who've watched part 1, it sounds familiar, doesn't it? Even though he couldn't get it up, his attraction to me was so overwhelming and powerful that I'm guessing this was the main thing turning me on, as well as the whole situation and setting. The other thing was, as those of you who have watched part 2 know, that evening something happened that turned me on so much that I was, to say the least, slightly more potent than usual. Whatever the reason was, just a few moments later, I was kind of holding on to the baggage rail and he was sitting in front of me and I was just kind of giving him, well, I was kind of giving it to him in his mouth, basically, with the landscape flashing by, and now and then we would stop in stations. This went on for a bit, where nobody got on, but where the train just made like kind of brief stops as it moved on, so there was no one on the platform, but there could have been. And this lasted for, you know, quite a bit, and then afterwards you know, we just hung out of the window, and back then I smoked, so I had a cigarette. And then, believe it or not, the ticket checkers came in again. I don't know why, but they did. I think it was ticket checkers, or was it the passport checkers? Anyway, it made me realise we hadn't even locked the door. The next morning, he had like an hour or so before he had to take a connecting train to Poland. So we decided to have a coffee in Berlin. I don't really mention it in the video, but I told him quite a bit about my life too. We both considered that that night had been a great experience for both of us. And we both agreed that neither of us would ever forget it. We wished each other well, said goodbye, and that was that. For me in life, there are two things that are really important. One is that it's interesting. Two is to help or bring joy to people where you can. And that's why I still consider that night one of the best things I have ever done. Thank you for watching. Cheerio.